I actually had an art teacher that told me I would never get into art school. Steven Spielberg got rejected from 3 film schools, okay? Sometimes people don't know what the hell they're talking about because you're doing it differently. You're coming at it differently. And because it's different and they can't see how you can make it work, they just see that you're not gonna make it because it's not fitting within the mold, okay? Because not only did I get into the best school in the country, and a school that had 50% attrition rate and survived, but I got a full scholarship. So,
Mm.
if I had listened to that limitation that was put on me, but I have in me since I was little, this tenacity that if you told me no, you can't, my answer was, oh, yes, I can. And you know
Mhm.
what? When I ever come at something, there's that, oh, yes, I can
Mhm.
defiance in there. And when that teacher told me I would never get into, art school, I was like,
Mhm.
not only am I going to try at all the best ones, I'm going to get into the hardest one. I want to prove you wrong. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, that's one of the essences that I like to ask and find out from my clients, because that is probably the thing that most adults try to squash when you were growing up.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
always ask my clients, what did you used to get in trouble for as a kid? Because that is your willpower and your motivator, your
Woo!
success motivator.
What you cooking? You're cooking. That was so good.
God woke me up. Fear don't live here. Anxiety don't live here. Young entrepreneur and I'm going on my 5th year.
Welcome to the Virtual Café podcast, where we tell stories that slap straight from people who have been through the mud and never collapsed. Today, I'm sitting down with the legendary Gwenne Wilcox, the brand dame herself, with 40 years of experience championing Fortune 500 brands like American Express, De Beers, Gianni Versace, and Harry and David. Gwenne has literally shaped how we think about branding. She's the creative genius behind Stuart Weitzman's iconic royal blue shoebox. She's worked with advertising legends like Riney and Milton Glaser, and has helped that brand sell for $574 million. What makes Gwenne truly special is her mission today, helping coaches, consultants, and founder-led businesses turn their authenticity into profitability. She's helped clients increase their pricing by 900%, generate 5 figures in just 10 days, and build brands that make people feel something. So without further ado, let's jump in. What's up, Gwenne? How you feeling today?
What's up, Jose? It's a great day when I'm with Jose. Yeah.
There we go. I love that. I might need to coin that phrase.
Yeah,
So
you can
listen,
grab that.
you've been in this industry for a while now, right? You're a vet in the game, right? So
Yep.
tell me, what made you fall in love with the marketing and advertisement industry?
I just love storytelling. My mom would tell me that when I was little, I loved books. I loved the story. I loved all the visceral parts of it. I was
Mm.
kind of a weird kid. I actually loved to smell the inks on the pages. If you had an illustration, there's something about the smell of the ink. So I would love to go on press. I still like to do that. But we're not in the printing world very much right now, and that's what I miss about this business, because it's like you're designing on a TV now, but before it was much more tactile. And I
Mm.
liked all the pieces and parts of that, uh, that goes into storytelling,
Mm.
and all the collaboration, the photographer, the illustrator, you know, um, working with the client and trying to get the message that connects, that that once upon a time, which doesn't always start once upon a time, the hook.
Exactly. It's so funny. Almost reminds me of the music industry and that transition from analog recording to digital recording. The level of quality that comes with, you can't mess this up. We got to print thousands of copies, millions of copies of this, so it has to be perfect versus being able to just, if worse comes to worse, you delete it or whatever the case is. So I can definitely respect that. So what was your primary experience in the industry like?
So I will tell you where I probably first sort of that I was unaware of. I grew up, my mom worked for Saks Fifth Avenue back in the day when it was really sort of the high end store. If a brand was sold at Saks Fifth Avenue, it was not sold anywhere else. They had always exclusive, and so it was everything about the experience. It was they the departments had sort of scents spewed into them. There was the carpet. There was it was always very white glove kind of experience, very boutique. And what I didn't realize at the time is that was sort of being ingrained to me, that full experience. That experience is what I wanted to bring forward in every brand that I engaged with. It's like when you go see, speaking of music, if you go to a concert, how do you tell somebody you love that artist? You don't just say, "Hey man, go buy the album." You
Yeah.
probably say, it makes me feel like this, and it's just,
Mhm.
and you talk about the little nuances, and I think that's what I like. It's all that layering, just like you said in music. There's the bass, there's the beat, there's the melody, there's the lyrics, there's the mixing, there's
Mm.
there's so much. It's and then you can't have one without the other.
That's interesting that you say that, right? Because like I come from a sales background.
Oh.
So what you're explaining sounds very similar to sales. And, I've actually had this thought in the past is like, whether you're in sales, marketing, advertising, you can't do one without the other. Like you're always intertwined into those other worlds. You know what I mean?
And it's so funny you say sales because going back to the Saks Fifth Avenue, I did end up working in sales. And I do remember the biggest sale I ever made. And I was always like this without realizing I was doing it. But I always would come from how making the buyer the hero in the story, in the story of what they were buying. So somebody comes along and they might say, "Oh, I need a pair of shoes. I'm going to a wedding." Right? Well, the
Hmm.
story there is, well, you wanna look beautiful, but don't you wanna be comfortable? I mean, are you a dancer? Do you wanna dance all night? Like, don't you wanna
Mm.
be the one that they talk about? Like, and it's like you're building the story for them, right? And I
Hmm.
would just do that not because I was trying to manipulate, but because I was like, "Let me be your girlfriend for the day and let me,
Yeah.
advise you." And I remember it really hit home to me one day. I was at the small leather goods counter, small leather goods wallets, and they would have briefcases and stuff. And this man comes running in. He's wearing a trench coat and it's flapping open. He's walking so fast. And he's about 15 feet away from me and he points up to something above my head and he said, "I want that. I'm buying it. Here's my credit card. Wrap it up." It was like he didn't even get to the counter yet. And so
Mm.
jokingly, I said, "Wow, how did you even know you wanted that? Like, you can't see it from over there." And he said, "Oh, my wife told me that's what she wants for her birthday." So I bring it
Mm.
down. This attaché case, it was an alligator attaché case. And it was, I think, like already $3,000. It was like some crazy amount, right?
Hmm.
So I'm wrapping it and I said, "Wow." I said, "Is it a big birthday?" He goes, "Oh yeah, it's a real important birthday." And I said, "Well, she already knows what she's getting. Don't you want to surprise her?" I said, "What if you went over there and bought her?" And I pointed to a diamond bracelet. I said, "What if you went and bought a diamond bracelet and we wrap it up and we put it inside the attache case?" And I said, "And then, oh my God, you're going to be the husband of the year. I mean, forget that. You're probably going to be the husband for the decade. Like, you can't screw up. Like, no matter what happens, like, you're the man." He goes,
Hmm.
"That's a great idea." And that's exactly what we did. And you know what? He came back the next week and he thanked me. He said, "Oh my God, that was the biggest hit." And because it made him feel good. He was the
Mhm.
hero, you know?
And you know
Now
what you capitalized on in that moment that a lot of people, I see make this mistake specifically in sales is like, the people who are most likely to buy from you is the person who already has bought from you. Everyone is looking for the person that's gonna buy, that's gonna buy, that's gonna buy. The
yeah.
person who's most likely to buy is someone who's already bought something from you, you know? And I can imagine that's probably the same in the advertising and marketing world as well, right? Like, do you focus more on new audiences or people that you've already attracted on building loyalty within the brand?
Well, that's a two-part answer. So it
Mhm,
depends. I mean, you can have a brand like Nike, right?
mhm,
Now, there's going to be people who are going to buy Nike for lots of different reasons. So you can have a brand and you can have a product line that speaks to different people.
mm,
So, and you can have a separate campaign, right? That speaks to
mhm,
those. So that campaign might look completely different than the overall campaign for the brand. So,
absolutely.
so in that regard, yes, you can speak to different audiences. But if
Mhm,
you're a brand that kind of only has one product or one line, then you've got to decide how you're going to position that brand and you have to stay consistent,
mm.
you know?
I think we've touched upon that in the past is like the fact
Mhm.
that I'm in a consumer insights role and like that's the new hot thing, right? Is like people are trying to tap into the customers that they haven't had before and just under having an understanding of these new audiences and risk proof their campaigns versus how it used to be. Like there's a lot of organizations who have gotten it wrong. Like there's businesses that got it has gotten it totally wrong. You know, I don't want to put nobody out there, but we know them. We know the ones that like, you know, sometimes it appears as if they go um to the like the highest paid person in the room. They use their opinion and their opinion might either not be it might not be valid for, you know, like if you're dealing with a hair care line and you're dealing with you know, African American hair care line, like you know, an old white guy in the 70s, like you know what I mean, making the decision is
Yeah,
it
and
doesn't
and
really
they
make
don't.
sense, you know.
Yeah, and I find that in all of the corporate jobs I had, they don't really. Very seldom do they get consumer insight. They tend to ask the people who work there. And it's like, you are not the customer. That's like forbidden, like internal knowledge. You're not,
Hmm.
you don't have the best perspective. And the other thing that I think companies do, a lot of independents do too, you don't need a huge audience. People always go for volume. They want to give,
Mm.
when they want to get everybody.
Hmm.
That's my way of saying it to make fun of it, is like, you
Yeah,
can't have everybody
yeah.
because then you disenfranchise your positioning, and now nobody knows what you stand for, and now what they're gonna be shopping is deal, price,
Mm.
and that's a short-term relationship.
I've actually just recently had this conversation
Mhm.
with my fiance. Do you think if an organization's brand is we're the cheapest, do they really have a brand?
No, they have a deal.
They have a deal.
What most people should do is find your customer base. Here's an example. I had a client that only had 286 like true blue loyal buyers, and they were
Mhm.
able to make 200 grand off of those 283 people, like profit, like a year,
Beautiful.
right? Now those people, all you had to do, you don't have to go for more people, just sell them more stuff because they're already in love with you. So
Mhm,
one of the things we did, this was they were finishing salts, and I said, here's
mhm,
what we're going to do. Most of your buyers are women. Let's try to get the men involved. We're going to take the same recipe, same ingredients. We're going to call it rubbing salts for the
mhm,
barbecue. we're just going to package it in a different tin. It's the same damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we increase sales again. You just have to offer more stuff and find out from them. Ask them, what do you do with our salts? Right? Because they're using it in a way that you might not know. Maybe they're using it on their popcorn. So maybe you wanna affiliate partner with a popcorn supplier, and you, as we would say, mup it up, put it in a thing. One of my ideas was, I know this is gonna sound funny, but this was an Oregon company, and in Oregon, they love their guns in Oregon. So I said, let's go to the gun case. Let's buy a case that they usually house guns, and we're going to call it the Friday night special.
Mm.
And it's a barbecue thing. We're going to put right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was just like, let's have some fun,
exactly. I love that
Um,
you take that approach to it. I
mhm.
love that you take that approach to it, because I feel like some of the best um brand shifts have happened accidentally, you
Well,
know?
I can't think of his name right now. It's the parent company of Samuel Adams. He does this great podcast interview where he said when they rolled out one of their spritzer things, it was alcoholic, and they had imagined a white woman, kind of like, 40 plus, kind of goes plays tennis with her girlfriends, watches her
Mhm,
weight, and wants to have these little wine coolers. Well,
mhm,
there was a promotion they were doing to the salespeople. It was all guys on this boat, and they were all drinking the wine coolers. And he goes, "These were buff guys, like these big gym
yeah,
guys." And he said, "Why are you drinking that?" He goes, "Well, we want to watch our waist too. We don't want to get hammered, but we want to sit and drink." And
ex
it had all this feminine packaging and stuff. So he said, okay, now we've got some insight, consumer insight. What they could have done is split package it, right?
mhm,
So he
absolutely.
says, don't worry about deciding, because I don't believe in avatar stuff. I go against the grain. I don't believe in it. The minute you start deciding who's going to buy it, now you've eliminated the true buyer from finding it and informing you who they are. Because whatever your product is, it will find its buyer, and you can always, repackage it. That's so when people say, "What's the avatar?" I'm like, I don't believe in that. The avatar is, how do you want them to feel?
Yeah.
There are
Like
6 main core emotional desires of every person. And I don't
mhm,
have them memorized, but one of them is like they wanna, be significant, they wanna belong, they want, admiration, they want to feel a sense of value, right? So they need to have the latest, they have to have the BMW or the Rolls Royce or so
mm,
it's all about that. They will say it's about other stuff, but the truth is, that's just
mhm,
justification to fulfill that emotional need. That's all.
mm.
So the avatar has nothing to do with that. What your how tall you are, how much you weigh, what your race is. It's like none of that, you know? So I just think that, if you believe in it, it will find its audience. It might take a minute, you know. We're so data driven, we've forgotten the human aspect of it. And it goes back to, you remember, I mean, I know this is gonna make me sound old or whatever, but when Henry Ford was making cars and he
Mhm.
asked people, you know, what color they wanted, they only had seen black, so they didn't know, they
Yeah.
don't know what they don't know, so you gotta offer it first, and then they make a decision, but they don't know what they want until they, see it.
Yeah, I think there are multiple types of entrepreneurial creative minds. Obviously, it's infinite. But one of the things that I always tell people when I discuss the person, like, oh, you want to be remembered as whoever the dude was that invented um vanilla Oreos. I want to be that guy. That type of outside of the box thinking. Like just think about the simplicity of always having chocolate Oreos, and somebody's in the boardroom and says, what do you guys think if we try vanilla? And it's like, oh, vanilla. Why didn't we think of that? Vanilla. Then everything comes from that. Cinnabon flavored Oreos, fruity pebble flavored Oreos, peanut butter flavored
Strawberry.
Oreos. Exactly, strawberry. But it always takes that one person that's just so unafraid to think outside the box. You know?
They resent it at first. There's pushback because it's this whole sense that they get really entrenched in the way they've always done it,
Yeah. Do you think AI
and
will kill that eventually?
no,
Mm.
I just think AI will be used to backward engineer the justification. Like how you take a survey and sometimes I do the personality test and you can kind of tell they're asking the same question. They've just kind of reconfigured it, but they're still asking
Mhm.
the same question.
Yeah.
People's prompts they will do that until AI spits out what they want it to.
Mm.
I,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you know, they're they gotta stuff it in because it's too expensive. I mean, what if AI said to Henry Ford, "You got this assembly thing all wrong. You gotta dismantle it and do it this way." You go, "Oh, shit, no." Like, "No, it's too expensive." Right?
Yeah.
So, they get too attached to the way it's comfortable. People don't wanna relearn things.
Mhm.
I used to the other thing I used to think about too, and companies should is affiliation.
Mm.
When I worked at Harry and David, their B2B division needed some lifting up, and I
Mhm.
just did an email campaign that had a 25% conversion rate which was huge, because I started using business language. They were
Mm.
just taking the consumer catalog and just repurposing it. I said, "No, no, no, there's a language business people speak,
Mhm.
and they can tell that you don't know what you're talking about if you're speaking a different language." So
Exactly.
one of the things I said is, what if we partnered with Levi? And what if
Mm.
we created a picnic basket with a Levi bandana as, you know, the thing in
Mhm.
the basket? And then you could co-brand it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was always looking for that because the person who's gonna buy that food basket, and here's the thing, Harry and David is speaking to the business person who's the intermediary who's buying it for somebody else. So
Mm.
used to think you have to think about the intermediate. Who do you have to talk to convince them of how the recipient is going to feel? So now
Mm.
it's different, right?
Yeah.
It's not just how you're going to feel, but how you're going to feel when they feel that way about you because of your decision. So now
Mm.
it's a two-layered story, right?
For sure.
So
For sure.
there isn't
So,
one hero, now there's two heroes, right?
what would you say is easier? I don't know if I like the word easier.
Well, let's try it that way, and we'll find a synonym.
What would you say is more rewarding?
Mm.
Working with brands and getting the best out of the brand, or working
Mhm.
with individuals and helping them
Oh,
get the best out of themselves?
I like working with individuals. I find
Yeah.
that the most rewarding because I just did a post recently. One of the exercises I have my clients do is we'll be doing something like this where I'm recording them, and then I'm gonna say, "I'm gonna just pretend I'm, like a customer of yours, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
ask you some questions." It's amazing. All of a sudden, they go into their zone and they're talking differently, José. They are in a whole different modality. And then what I do is we watch it back and they kinda go, "Oh, who's that?"
Mhm.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't get to see reflected back to them what other people are experiencing about their charisma, their character, and they come alive when they're talking about something that they know a lot about. And I like to be like the Obi-Wan Kenobi showing them um, their let the what did they say? Force. Showing them their force, like, what let the force be with you, but most people don't know who they are, like, what is that? Because it's just what they do, so they don't think it's anything extraordinary because, like, I could say I'm sure a lot of people have said to you, "How do you do?" and then it's fill in the blank, and your
Mhm.
answer is probably, "I don't know, I just do it." Now
Yeah.
that's your gift, but it's like to you, it's like, it's n why are you making such a big deal out of that? But to somebody else, they don't know how to do that. That is a big deal. That's your superpower. But because you just do it, like brushing your teeth, you don't really have to think about it. You don't value it. You don't see the significance of it. And so I like to awaken people to that. And then let's brand your personal brand based on that. But the biggest error that people make is they brand themselves based on their industry, not on who they are, and they happen to be in that industry.
Yeah. I actually recently put up a post that was basically talking about that, like, um, and I find myself doing it. That's why I honestly haven't posted in about a week because it's put me in a conundrum after like making
Mm.
this post. But the post was between Myron Golden and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Whoa. He talks about how a lot of the time people are basing their present on their past instead of basing their present on their future.
Mhm.
And so like I just had to sit down with myself and think to myself, like, have I been doing that? Have I been attaching my identity to who I've been in my past, my previous experiences, opposed to who I'm gonna become in my future? And it was just like I had to
Oh,
sit down.
damn.
It's
That's heavy. Yeah.
That's heavy, you know? And so, I'm personally about to go into a rebrand that's gonna be crazy, but, it's one of those things. So, instead of having that focus on, "Okay, I'm Afro Latino, I'm from New York, this is my vibe, this is this and that, blah, blah," I'm attaching myself to all these things that really don't matter. Saying, "No, I'm instead of what my new rebrand is? Mine
What?
and I always thinking to myself like, "Oh yeah, Jose Rivera is such a generic name." It's like, I always hated my name as a kid because it felt like, why my dad named me this? You know what I mean? But no now 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 I'm thinking to myself like, "Yo, but look at like Will Smith. Look at Jennifer Lopez. Look at Michael Jordan. These super, super generic names and these people that when you hear their name, it's synonymous. There's millions well, probably not millions, but there's a hell of a lot of Will Smiths in the world. There's a lot of Jennifer Lopez's in the world. So I'm just going to be the most impactful Jose Rivera to ever live.
Well, did you have, here and so I have a question for you, but before I go there, I'm gonna say this. When I work with my clients, the first thing they do is it's an apologetic thing. "Well, I'm just starting out." And I'm like, "Okay, so do we wanna is that what we want to, you know, announce to everybody that you're just starting out? Like, you're not really sure of yourself? Like, we're going to brand you." I did this with the people with the salinity salts. He said, "No, no, no, we're gonna brand you like where you're going, not
Mm,
where you are now.
hmm
What is your brand gonna be when you have arrived? That's what we're putting up now.
Exactly.
You don't have to be at the start, you
hmm
know?
Yeah.
And people think that and then what happens is you get in this trap and you keep rebranding yourself thinking you're logo is the thing.
Mhm.
It's not like I tell people there's only 3 things you need when you start. Most
Mhm.
important is clarity of who you are, right?
Mhm.
Where you wanna go, what is like, how do you see yourself? And that can change too, but at least
Mhm.
let's start there.
Yeah.
And the third thing is you can just do like a Google form. You don't even need a website. You don't.
Mhm.
You do not.
And you wanna know that's the whole like, Gwen, I when I put up this post, I felt so because one of the things that was said in the interview was such a good interview. I gotta send it to you. It's really, really good.
Oh, yeah, send me the
But
link, or you should share it
I'm
with everybody on here, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna put it in the comment section.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, one of the things that Dr. Ben Hardy said, he quoted someone else, and he said, "We are kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal."
Ooh. Wow.
Isn't that heavy? And I think about it, and Gwen, look, since I was fresh out of high school, right? I worked, I would say within the first 5 years out of high school, I worked for 4 different Fortune 100 companies in the finance space. So I really learned how money was moved. Like I worked for JP Morgan Chase. I worked for
Mhm.
Morgan Stanley, took my Series 7, everything. Worked for, what is it called? Primerica. And I worked for
Mm.
Northwestern Mutual. So I learned the way insurance worked. I learned the way annuities worked. I learned what a call put was, what a long put was. I learned all these different things about how money worked. I learned as a teller not to judge a book by its cover because guess what? I was working in a place where it was like, I was working out of Chase, and I remember some landscaper came in. His clothes,
Yep.
filled like
Dirty.
still dirty, like they were so dirty. And I look in his account. We got $95,000 as an account, and I got negative $52. I'm nice and pressed. My clothes are pressed. I look great. I barely know how I'm gonna get back home. It taught me how money actually works, and like not to judge a book by its cover. And throughout, and I had plenty of other jobs, and I just kept on getting it wrong and kept on getting it wrong and kept on getting it wrong. And it's because of the things that I feel like I had to unlearn that were attached to were given to me, lessons that were given to me by people who I had admiration from, but wasn't going where I wanted to.
And you know what? A true mentor, I mean, I I actually had an art teacher that told me I would never get into art school. Steven
Really?
Spielberg got rejected from 3 film schools, okay?
Mm,
Sometimes people don't know what the hell they're talking about because you're doing it differently. You're coming at
mm,
it differently. And because it's different and they can't see how you can make it work, they just see that you're not gonna make it because it's not fitting within the mold, okay? Because not only did I get into the best school in the country, but and a school that had 50% attrition rate and survived, but I got a full scholarship. So,
mm,
if I had listened to that limitation that was put on me, but I have in me since I was little, and I was going to ask you this question, this tenacity that if you told me no, no, you can't, my answer was, oh, yes, I can. And do you know
mhm,
what? When I ever come at something, there's that, oh, yes, I can
mhm,
defiance in there. And when that teacher told me I would never get into, art school, I was like,
mhm.
not only am I going to try at all the best ones, I'm going to get into the hardest one. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Well,
mean? And they're like, that's one of the essences that I like to ask and find out from my clients, because that is probably the thing that most adults try to squash when you were grown up.
mm,
So I
yeah.
always ask my clients, what did you used to get in trouble for as a kid? Because that is your willpower and your motivator. your
Woo!
successful motivator.
What you cooking? You're cooking. That was so good. Wow.
That's yeah, because there's that shame, a little bit of shame. So we feel like we can't come at it like that
Mm-hmm.
because it was inconvenient. But if somebody, like if you have a kid that talks back to you, I took a
Mm-hmm.
parenting class and the guy said, don't think about how it drives you crazy right now. Ask yourself, that is a gift. What career path would that be good for? Probably an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
prosecutor, maybe. I don't know, but don't squash it.
Mm-hmm.
Direct it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I was the class clown. I used to always get in trouble for talking about a class, making the class laugh, or just, like
Uh-huh.
I was just naturally rebellious. I was very rebellious. So I understand what you like. I
Mhm.
I hate conformity.
Yeah.
I just
But I don't think
I'm
that's why you did it.
no.
I'm gonna guess that whatever was being offered up in that classroom was not half as interesting as what you could entertain. And
True.
your boredom, like, you couldn't wait for it to arrive, so you brought the party. You brought the
Yeah.
party
I even
because
you wanna I'm sorry, but you know how I used to manipulate my teachers? I literally used to, like, have conversations, "Yeah, but what," and I used to have conversations that had nothing to do with whatever they were teaching, and, like, I was not a good student. I was not a good student.
yeah, but see, if I was your teacher, I would say, "Okay, Jose, I'm gonna have you teach something to the class. I want you to go
Mm,
prepare. You teach it
yeah.
whatever way you want. If you wanna juggle while you're doing it, whatever you do, but they have to learn one thing."
Mhm,
And I would put you in front of the class and I would let you not to make you a fool, nothing like that. It's like, that is a leadership quality. If you can
mhm,
hold the attention from your classmates away from the authority, like, that's leadership.
yeah,
That's
and I
leadership.
think
That is not rebellion. That's just a gift. That's a gift
and
that's been given a bad name so that you stop doing it.
and I think it really goes back to what you originally said, like, the thing that you got in trouble for is your
Mhm.
gift, and I feel like my biggest like, to attach back to being like, my what I used to, consistently like, I was trying to be a rapper for the longest time, like, I would make music and I was trying to rap, but I now in retrospect, I realized I really didn't wanna rap. I got so good at it because I loved, um, you know, studying great rappers and the way that they can manipulate and bend words, like the way like Eminem, me and Westwood acting on lubrication on
Eminem, my
Azarov's
man
bumping
from
action
Detroit.
off, Jason off covered in Tabasco sauce. Like Eminem can like really like bend words and make words that don't fit. And so I love that, but I think really what I was keeping from myself was the fact that I love being on stage speaking to people. I like garnering the attention of mass multitudes and um transforming them. Like that like
Mhm.
I feel like I should have been public speaking like 5 years ago. But
Yeah.
there were paths to lesser goals that I was attaching myself to.
Yeah, well, because people want you to attain and achieve, and if they're counseling you and you don't achieve, then it's their failure. So they're gonna ratchet it down to what's possible, right? One of my favorite, interviews that I saw was Katie Ledecky. Do you remember
Mhm,
her? She was the one that I forget, it was in the last Olympics or the Olympics before that, and she blew everybody, no pun intended, out of the water. Remember, she
mhm,
she was so far ahead that the camera couldn't get up high enough in the building to
mhm,
show the rest of us, so it looked like she was in the pool all by herself.
mhm,
And they asked her, I mean, first of all, she's kinda like, Brady, like, because he was like, I forget what number pick he was, but it was like, they do They did an overall analysis of her, and her hands were too small, her torso was too short, her feet were too small. Like my teacher said, you'll never get into art school. They're like, swimming, no, don't forget about it.
Mhm.
She came to the Olympics not to win the gold medal. Here's the other thing, too. She just came to swim faster. She was
Mm.
always just trying to beat her own time.
Mhm.
She ended up beating everybody's time, the world record. Now, if she had come to beat the world record, that would have been everybody else's expectation.
Mhm.
But the fact that she just kept swimming faster than the last time and faster than the last time, and she beat her own record, and then, now it's like it's all possible, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we put the bar at a place that is not, um, trackable or within our power. So we can all say, "Well, I wanna be the richest person." It's like, well, no, maybe what you should do is, I wanna increase my revenue 10% a month,
Mhm.
because that you can measure that. You can get a cadence for that, right?
Yeah. You know what's so crazy is that interview I was telling you about, that's one of the things it's
Uh-huh.
actually kinda counterproductive to what you're saying, but I would love to hear your opinion on it. And I think it does correlate, right? Because you said when your teacher told you you would never get into art school, I mean, yeah, you would never get into art school, you went to in your mind, you decided you're going to the best art school. The what what the gentleman had said in the interview was that a lot of the time, the like, the ultimate goal isn't big enough.
Mhm.
And because the ultimate goal isn't big enough, there's things that are like distractions that get in the way. And that's what leads people to lesser goals, is that the ultimate goal isn't big enough. So how do you feel about that? Do you and I wonder if there's any correlation that you see between clients that you have who might have all the confidence in the world, versus those who don't and who usually gets further.
Mm. I recently had a client that, um, gave up on entrepreneurship because she just said it was too hard. And
Mm,
sometimes it is. It's it's like if you look at somebody like Katie Ledecky, okay, like maybe in her pursuit of just swimming faster, there are probably some races she lost.
mhm,
You know what I mean? And
mhm,
you're not gonna win every time, but how bad do you want that thing? And does that thing would you do that thing whether you got paid for it or not? What how important is it to you? How does it
mm,
completely complete you? I mean, Michael Jordan didn't his goal was probably not to be the most famous basketball player or even, I want a shoe named after me.
mhm.
He probably went little by little, like, I want to score this many points this game. Next game, I want to score this many points. Just like my ultimate goal is I want to be in the NBA, right? Well, then he got that. And
Well, that's what
then,
they say about him. They say that he was literally not just competitive in basketball, like, he was competitive in, like, who can tie their shoes the fastest, like,
yeah,
that was his DNA and his personality, you
yeah.
know?
And in my DNA, I always chose the most challenging thing. Like,
Mm,
I remember when back in the day when we used to have to take home ec or wood shop in high school,
mhm,
I would pick the most intricate thing
mm,
because, like, they'd say, "Well, this is for expert." Well, okay, well, I wanna do an expert job. I didn't think of it like, "Well, no, I have to do the beginning one and then the intermediate one," and I picked this outfit to sew that I needed to even cover the buttons with fabric, like, that was an advanced thing,
mm,
and I would not take I wouldn't take no for an answer. I'm like, "Don't tell me I can't. Show me how to do it. Help
Yeah,
me. Don't limit me." And a lot of
exactly.
times I was very tenacious. And I think that's baked into your
Mm,
willpower. It's just baked in. I came out that way. It was annoying as hell to my mom because my standard exceeded her standards.
yeah.
And that made her feel, she told me, like, inadequate because she was like, "How did somebody like me who thinks of herself have low self-worth have a child like you with such high
Mm.
self-worth?" Like, I don't know how to do that, you
You
know?
know, that's actually a common theme in my,
Mhm.
um, like, in my background. I'm Latino. I see that with a lot of daughters and mothers that
Mhm.
it's like the mother wants the daughter to be good, just not better than them. They don't wanna marry a man that was better than the man that they married. They don't want them to have a body that's better than the body that they have. It's like it's crazy, you know?
Well, it's who do you it's who do you think you are kind of
Yeah, who do
mentality.
you think
And
you
I
are?
kinda had that. So I had to choose, you know? Like, I left, I went to the opposite coast
Yeah.
because that was limitation, you know, "You're not gonna help me, you wanna hurt me, I can't be here," you know?
Do you think that that's the ingredient for all people who, like, develop, strong brands and do great things, um, like audacity? Like, the audacity is the fundamental thing that everyone who wants to accomplish something great needs?
You know, I look at if you know, like, Bill Gates' story, not that, you know, I'm a fan or anything, it's just that his situation, if you wanna read what was it called? Was it not The Tipping Point? Oh, crap. It's one of Gladwell's books, and he talks about,
Is it
you know, that
Outliers?
they're just Huh?
Is it Outliers?
Yes,
Okay.
Outliers. Thank you. Great book. Everybody should read that. You only need to read 3/4 of it, then it just
Mhm.
kinds trails off. You probably know what I mean. But, what Bill Gates had to his advantage is he had proximity. He
Mhm.
lived within walking distance of the University of Washington, and he had
Mm.
so it's proximity, access, and, he also had the means, okay? So he
Mhm.
came from an upper class, background. He had proximity to, University of Washington, and he had access. He made friends with the janitor who let him go in the middle of the night and do programming.
Mm.
Okay, so he that's how he got his 10,000 hours of right?
Yeah.
So I think if you don't have those things, um, you know, as crazy as it is, like the movie Rocky, right? Like that
Okay.
guy, you know, didn't that character didn't have a Gold's Gym or access, but if you want something and you see the possibility, I would say it's probably better not to frickin' talk about it and
Mhm.
just do it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes talking about it dissipates it, and you're just going to attract the limiting beliefs around you, and it's gonna take the juice out, you know, I always have the saying that, you know, my glass is not half full
Mhm.
because I've siphoned your other half. You being
Mm.
the one that thinks that I have a better opportunity. It's no, no, no. I didn't take nothing from nobody, right? Least of
Yeah,
all, you
you
know.
know, to your point, you know,
Mhm,
when you every thought is a seed, right? Like, I'm a firm believer of every thought is a seed, every dollar is a seed. I believe $1 can make $1,000, right? I believe, you know, you just never know. But the thing about that is, like, if we look at a tree, like, trees are, uh, gravitropic and phototropic.
mhm.
So, meaning that seed grows in the darkness and builds its roots before anyone ever sees it come out, and then it grows.
I like that idea that I think that part of it is I do think adversity plays a big role. So if you're not somebody like a Bill Gates that has proximity, it had what's the other word I'm looking for?
Access.
That just the means and the access, then adversity is a wonderful, it's like it's like the plant that grows in the desert. It's like this should not be happening. This
Hmm.
plant should not be surviving, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the against all odds person, but that little plant believed it could thrive. So it's like doesn't matter. So, but I like your ideas. Like while we're growing our roots, don't be talking about how big you're going to get. Just fertilize those roots and do your thing. And and that's what makes it lonely a little bit, you know,
Hmm.
because you
But that's
can't really talk about it.
that's the like the level of faith that you have to have as an entrepreneur. The
Hmm.
level of like you not necessarily knowing where your next dollar is going to come from, where your next meal is going to come from, but knowing that it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I think that uncertainty is so difficult for a lot of people, especially if you have a family that you're raising. There's outside forces that are like, you got your rent, you have your phone bill, your electricity, all these different things and I think it goes back to ultimately being
Hmm.
childlike. Like that's one thing
Hmm.
I would say that you have about you that is, I think that that's the thing about you that makes you so lovable
Oh,
is the
thank you.
is the is the fact that you have
Mhm.
a childlikeness about you, like and a childlike creativity and curiosity, and like the fact that most people don't ever tap into that once they become adults. It's like they're their own worst enemy when it comes to developing something. I think I'm a firm believer of like, yo, if God put it in your head, you got time. The time's ticking. You better make it happen before someone else does.
Yeah,
And I
there's
think,
Elizabeth Gilbert has this book. I would recommend anybody reading it. Actually, I'm going to recommend two books.
mhm,
We already mentioned Outliers.
Outliers, yep.
Um, One book that really, really helped me when I was in the corporate world was Orbiting the Giant Hairball.
The
And
giant what?
hairball.
Okay. What's
And
that
I
about?
can't Oh, it's basically how to survive the restrictions. We were talking about restrictions and limitations and
Mhm,
how to work around to be able to make creativity happen, but communicate it in a way where people who don't have that creativity can understand it. So
mm,
it's a wonderful book. And then the other one is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Big magic.
Hmm.
And what's that one about?
And she kind of talks about ideas you kind of catch the idea in the universe, right? The idea comes to you. If you don't do something with it within a certain amount of time, it goes to somebody else. Talk about planting a seed. It will
Mhm,
go back into the ether and
mhm.
someone else will receive it. So,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
love that. And you wanna know something? It's something that I noticed about you the first time we spoke, and your understanding of, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but
no.
I'm just gonna say it as blunt as possible. Your understanding of AI and the way it works is so advanced. It's more advanced than a lot of
Uh-huh.
people that might be half your age.
Mm.
And I just wanna commend you because I think it ties into everything that we've spoken about so far, and that desire to learn, that desire to, because a lot of other people your age might have been like, oh, might be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to learn that. I don't want to participate. Like, I have sometimes when my grandmother, I have trouble, she's like, pone la televisión. So she's telling me put on the TV for her. Like she just don't even want to put on the TV, And so
Mhm.
what would you say, like, why, why is it the way you are the way you are? What is it like?
Oh boy. I don't I've just always one of the first books that I got when I was older, it was called either How Things Work or The Way Things Work. I just was really fascinated with how
Hmm.
things worked.
Yeah.
Machines, gears, just I almost like have the curiosity of someone who is a physicist, but
Mm,
I don't have that mathematical ability, but
yeah.
I wanna understand it. I've always had this I won't give it up until I understand it, and I'll keep asking questions until I totally understand it. And
Mm,
then I have a I think one of my gifts is my analogous I'm able to communicate analogously and using metaphors and
mm,
similes to make it understandable. I was explaining AI, for instance, to an older woman the other day, and she got all scared. And I said, "Okay, so when you you grew up with encyclopedias, right?" She said, "Yeah."
mhm,
I said, "Okay." And remember, there was like an encyclopedia for A and B, and I said, "Imagine if you could hold an encyclopedia and talk to it." And ask it a question like, let's say you needed to know every single person that worked with Albert Einstein while he was developing the theory of relativity, and you wanted to know what part of each equation every person contributed to. If you asked that book, Encyclopedia for Einstein, if you asked that question in the right way and you said, create a chart for me with the person's name, their illustration, and what they contributed in a illustrated timeline, it could do it for you.
mhm.
Then you close the book, and then she understood
Yeah.
because you know. But I
Mm,
think what AI is going to give rise to is because I've been here for when Photoshop came in, and everybody used Photoshop because they said, "Oh, I used Photoshop to do that." Well, it didn't make it better, but they could say, "Yeah, yeah, I used 47 layers." Well, did you need 47 layers? No, no, no. But isn't it cool? I used. I think what AI is going to give rise to is a whole new industry. I think you and I talked about this of forensic specialists. So there is
mm,
going to be forensic literary people. They'll be able to tell
mhm,
whether that thing was generated by AI,
mhm.
or if it was
Yeah. Organic.
ancient scroll something, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing will happen with art. And because we've already done AI, I mean, Andy Warhol did AI. He
Mhm,
did it manually. He would take somebody else's image and he
mhm,
would you know, redo it, paint over
mhm.
it, do whatever. I mean, how that guy didn't get sued for copyright infringement.
It's
And that's the other
crazy.
thing. There's going to be a whole industry of AI um, defamation, copyright infringement. There's going to be a whole new area of law
Yeah.
um, based on that. So I think it's just going to give rise to a whole, like I said, a forensic specialists on art, the written word, um, law, and I'm not probably not even thinking about all of it, but
You said something that's so important, and like the way you think and the book that you read about how things work. I think that translates so very well for you and the way you're able to coach your
mhm,
people, because it's like you have that ability to see in them what they don't see, and
yes,
take things inside of that's deep rooted deep inside of them that they just
mhm,
don't see yet. You know, and it's so funny too. Another thing that's interesting that you said is I think we both are similar in this way is I love explaining with metaphors. And like that's I and it goes back to that big magic book of like that's really how you explain. You absolutely need metaphors to explain um complex ideas in a simple way. And a
Mhm.
lot of people don't understand that. Like I've had sales leaders, my managers that are like, "Oh, you use a lot of like similes and metaphors and this and that." And those same sales leaders really weren't that good at selling. And the reason why they truly weren't that good at selling is
Mhm.
because, like, just imagine I had a SDR role, and my job is to book a meeting, right? And I use this super simple language. I'm super personal. Me and the potential client, the prospect, kick it off, and then I send them off to this other person, and the person uses super complex language with them and is an absolute bore.
You know,
That's the thing that people don't understand about language specifically is, and I actually learned this from my one of my mentors, and he said that the issue with a lot of people when they're trying to communicate is they're trying to be impressive and not be impactful.
well, they're
And
trying to be exclusive, not inclusive. And the most,
mm,
and you and I may have talked about this before. Stop me if I've, well, I'm just going to share it. One of my
yeah,
favorite people in the world, I actually had a crush on him, was Richard Feynman. Richard
mm,
Feynman is known as the father of quantum physics. And he
mm,
was the physicist because
mm,
he was able to explain things like he didn't like the whole cosine language, so he made up his own codes. I mean, he would,
mm,
you know what I
mm,
mean?
yeah,
And so he worked on the Manhattan Project. He also was a very interesting character. He learned how to play the banjo. He would, I mean, he was just amazing. Anyway, there's a really great book called Surely You Must Be Joking, Mr. Feynman, which is a collection um, of his lectures. And when he would lecture, he was from a place called Rockaway, New Jersey. So he has a very thick Jersey accent, but you can look up his lectures. And he's lecturing on these really complex quantum physics things, but anybody can understand him. Anybody.
mm, yeah.
And I don't know, he might have won the Nobel Prize. I don't know. Really brilliant, brilliant man. We lost he died in think in the 80s or early 90s, but he was the one who discovered why the Challenger blew up. He was the one who he knew it was the O-rings that they shrunk when they got cold, and it created an
Mm.
air pocket, which is the fuel got in and the oxygen got and it, it blew up. But I mean, if you
See,
can,
humans are smarter than AI. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, that's the hot take of this episode. Humans are smarter than AI. There we go.
well, the AI can't be creative in the sense where they can look at something in a way that's different.
Mm,
Like for instance, a long time ago, I was working for a company, a fruit gifting company. I won't say which one it is. And we were art directing some photography, and I was told that we had to shoot this big, huge tower that took 3 hours to set it up and light it. That they
mhm,
wanted us to now dismantle it and have it face this way. So in the catalog, in the fold, one would face this way, one would face this way.
mhm,
And it would take us another 3 hours. And I'm like, why don't we just flop the photo? Like, why are we doing this? And they said, well, it's because cheese, there's the cheese block there, the cheddar cheese block, and it says cheddar cheese.
mhm,
And I'm thinking, because this is my tenaciousness, it's like, I still don't understand, but why? Why? Why?
mhm,
And I said, finally, is there real cheese in this cheese wrapper? And they said, oh, no, it's just a wooden block with the thing printed. I said, well, who printed out the label? Oh, the art department. Okay, well, why don't we call the art department and ask them to print it backwards? So when we flop the photo, it'll be correct reading. And they just
Mm-hmm.
looked at me like their mind couldn't. Now, I don't know that AI could come up with that.
Mm-hmm.
If I prompted it, if I had the idea first,
Yeah.
I could, you know what I mean? But I don't know that it would say, turn it upside down and flip it and rotate it 17 degrees. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, no matter, we can go 20 years into the future, 50 years into the future, 100 years into the future. The biggest thing is AI will always have limitations that the human mind doesn't.
Right, because it's only as good as the data that's been input. It's like an encyclopedia. It has to have the data sitting there to
Mm-hmm.
extract from it. It can't prompt itself. It can't have an original idea. You and I can have a dream in the middle
Mm-hmm.
of the night. Like Paul McCartney, the Let It Be song came to him melody in his sleep, and he woke up going, I must have heard that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he called all his friends, said, like, let me like play this for you. What is this from? And they went, nothing. And it's like
Yeah,
it came to him in a dream. AI can't do that. Can't dream.
exactly. I think that's why the work that you do specifically with these individuals is so very important, because
Mhm.
there's so many people who are trying to find what their brand is by using AI, and they're only confusing themselves more.
Well, what they're doing is they're saying, give me a template that already exists out there that I can, it's like, give me a white label
Mhm.
and I'll put my label on it.
Mhm.
And what my big theme going forward is, I'm starting this new program called Go Brave.
Yeah.
Like, just go brave. And it's like, my whole saying is, express yourself so boldly that you scare the competition. Most go, oh shit, I don't want to be that good. Ooh, I don't want
Yeah.
to be that different.
Mhm.
I want to be like this other thing. I want to be adjacent to this other thing. But if you really want to be different, that's how you're going to shine. Be different. Go all in. That's the other thing I say to people when we come up with your brand promise. I add one thing. I say, what's your value, which is really just one word or two words to something. And then we
Mhm.
do your aspiration, and I call it the Martin Luther King if I had a dream. In other
Mhm.
words, your aspiration is going to be something that may happen when you're no longer here. So it's
Mhm.
ultimately one day, I have a dream that one day is how you do the thing that you deliver, like the what, right? And then the promise is the thing that gets delivered. It's not, well, I train people to run this. No, it's like whatever it is, but you want to leave it open enough where it's that at least thing, like it has no cap on it, my thinking always goes bigger. Like,
Mhm.
because somebody will say to me, and I exhaust people sometimes. They'll say, your energy is like, it's just too much. But, I think big, like the people with the salts. I had a friend that worked at World Market, and I
Mm.
went to her and I said, listen, are you guys interested in buying a Mediterranean salt blend? And she said, oh my God, yeah. And I said, well, how many pallets would you need? And she said, well, we would need three pallets, which is, I don't know how many bottles that would be. And I went to my women and they said, well, we don't have a Mediterranean blend. And I said, you have a Za'atar blend. We just rename it.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
you know? And then
Yeah.
they said, well, we would need $20,000 to make that much salt. And I said, so get a loan. You've got a
Mhm.
buyer. A bank's
Yeah.
going to give that to you, no problem. But
Exactly.
one of them in the partnership only wanted she thought of the business as a hobby, and the other
Hmm.
one, that's like getting married and never discussing whether or not you want children, and then finding out after you're married that one of you didn't never wanted children. It's like,
Crazy.
you gotta have that conversation.
Yeah.
So, I told them, before you tank this into the ground, you need to sell this business, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
But, it broke my heart when they sold it, because it's like, I have put so much into it, and we grew it so fast. That's the
Hmm.
one that when we rebranded and relaunched their website, they made $30,000 in 10 days.
Oh
In
my
10 days.
goodness. Crazy.
Organically. No ads, no nothing, just with their small, you know, it's but I love doing stuff like that. To me, it's like a puzzle. It's like a challenge, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so tell me more about the Go Brave initiative that you have going
So
on.
if you are someone who is tired of templatizing, of
Mhm.
doing things other people's way, so that you're just an identical sphere of them or adjacent to them, but it's still not about you and you don't feel aligned to it. Do you want to be your voice? Do you want to stand out in a way that it's inextricably you? It can't be confused with anyone else. And it's going to be so you and so bold, it's going to make those that are in your industry nervous. It's going to scare them, because you're
Mhm.
going to draw so much attention to yourself. It's going to pull away from them, because
Mm.
you're going to be real, like
Yeah.
real, raw, authentically you, not authentic like a strategy or a tactic, but truly, truly you.
Mm.
And we're going to extend that. Not only are you going to be able to express it, you're going to know how to sell it,
Mm.
and sell it in a way that someone isn't going to want to miss out, because they see how real you are, and you're going to extend that to them, whatever that product is that you're selling. That's the Go Brave, the anti-brand evolution program.
And that's a wrap on another incredible conversation here at the Virtual Cafe. If Gwen's story resonated with you and you're ready to turn your authenticity into profitability, make sure you connect with her on LinkedIn or visit her website to book a strategy call. Trust me, if you're hiding what makes you different, you're hiding what can make you millions. Until next time, stay blessed and highly caffeinated.
Peace.